I met David in the sixth grade. We met in our science class, to be exact. We weren't really friends for the first couple of years of knowing each other. We began talking more around the age of 13 and immediately clicked. We had a shared interests and liked the same musical artists, so we instantly clicked, and once we bonded over that, everything else snowballed. We started to develop feelings for each other, but due to my immaturity at the time, I never really agreed to officially date him. I will spare the details, but unfortunately, we had a very painful falling out, and by the time high school came around, we were no longer speaking. We did eventually reconnect, but that was followed by several instances of going back and forth between being inseparable to having no contact with each other. It was always rooted in David's inability to be my friend because he still had romantic feelings for me, and it made things difficult for him. He told me he liked me and saw me as more than just a friend. David moved across the country not long after we graduated high school, and any contact we had going forward was always virtual. We finally got to a point where it seemed like it was possible for us to be just friends. I got into a long-term relationship, and David was dating other people as well. My long-term relationship turned into a marriage, and I've now been with my husband, M, for a total of 6 years. After a couple of years of being married, feelings for David began to resurface. We would talk and text all the time. There were a lot of flirtatious messages being sent. Several times, I found myself wanting to cross the line completely. David and I had never been together sexually, and I found myself longing for that sort of encounter with him more and more. He seemed more forward and open sexually compared to the time we were closer to each other. He sounded laughter. He sent me pics of him, and one showed his bulge. Honestly, I never knew David had such a huge one. It made me want him more. I wondered why I wanted to be with him over again, and I realized it was because I think we both knew what we were doing was wrong. At that point, it was pretty much a case of emotional cheating. So we went no contact again and stayed that way for quite some time. Until recently. I got a new job last year where I've had several opportunities to travel for work. I was recently asked to go to Phoenix for a 2-month assignment. Phoenix is where David lives. I hadn't seen him in 10 years, which feels crazy to put into words. I fought with myself not to reach out, but I couldn't help it in the end. I surprised him by showing up to his job. He owns a small cafe with a couple of things I had collected over the years that I always wanted to give to him. Understandably, he was in shock to see me standing there in the flesh, and I can say I practically felt the same way seeing him. I couldn't really get a read on how he felt about seeing me after so long, but I gave him the name of my hotel and told him I'd be in the restaurant at 5 p.m. if he wanted to catch up over dinner. He came, and we had such an amazing time chatting, reminiscing, laughing. 2 hours flew by, and I didn't want it to end. I asked if he wanted to come hang out in my hotel room for a while. I told myself that it was possible for us to just enjoy each other's company without crossing a boundary, but deep down I wanted to take it a step further. We hung out for a few more hours, drinking and laughing. Eventually we got tired. I laid down to close my eyes for a few seconds, and he did the same. We inched closer together until we were basically spooning, and after a few minutes of laying like that, I could feel him getting hard. I was so incredibly turned on, I really couldn't resist. I turned around and kissed him, and I'm sure you can guess what happened next. It was honestly the best Essex of my life. I can't even describe what it felt like having him inside of me for the first time. Everything about it was absolutely perfect, from the pace, to the rhythm, the foreplay, everything. His hands on my body felt like electricity. I never orgasmed like that until I was with David. From then on, we saw each other almost daily. We continued to sleep together, and each time felt just as good, if not better. Of course, in the back of my mind, I felt tremendous guilt knowing that I was betraying my husband in the worst way possible. But it just felt too good to stop. Even writing this out now makes me feel a certain way. I got home from my work trip 3 weeks ago, and my husband doesn't have a clue as to what went on in Phoenix. I know I should end things with him, but I'm scared to actually do it. I've built a life with him here, and I know I'm an absolutely shitty, disgusting person for what I've done. I've already been asked to return to Phoenix for another 2-month assignment beginning in September. I've tried to reason with myself, but in the end, I just know I'm not going to be able to resist seeing David again. Tomorrow afternoon, I will be telling my husband that I want a divorce. We've spent 6 years together, and in the beginning I never would have dreamed of being with another man. It started in the bedroom when he was unwilling to listen to my suggestions for things that would make me feel good. Instead, he would become offended and act as though he knew better than I did for what would be pleasurable for me. I tried talking with him about this several times, and each time he would get upset and act like I was attacking his manhood. After a while, I just gave up completely and continued faking orgasms to make him happy. When I started feeling more like his mother than his partner, the sex got worse. It was all of the stereotypical stuff, having to pick up after him constantly, being the main one to cook and clean, and so on. He's gotten incredibly lazy over the years. We don't go out anymore. We don't do date nights. His main thing is chilling at home and watching TV or playing video games. I'm fine with that, but I also want to do more sometimes. We both are lucky in that we have well-paying jobs. I've expressed on numerous occasions that I have dreams outside of the corporate world, dreams that have the potential to come into fruition within the next couple of years, so long as I continue being smart financially. Although he tends to be very lazy and lethargic at home, he's very much into the work grind culture, and because of this, anytime I talk about my wants and desires for the future, he immediately shuts them down as being stupid. I've tried reasoning with him about some of these things over the years, but he just doesn't seem to get it or understand how I'm feeling. The emotional cheating started about a year after we began having issues in our relationship. I knew what I was doing was wrong and eventually went no contact with the person whom I was cheating with. By chance, I recently got sent on a work assignment that happened to be in the same city as the person that I was cheating with. We saw and slept with each other repeatedly over the span of 2 months during my assignment. It was quite literally the best Essex of my life. This person was an old flame, if you will. We've always had a strong emotional connection, but it just never really worked out. Sort of a right person, wrong time kind of thing. He is someone I knew from long before I ever met my husband. Obviously, I should have just initiated a divorce as soon as I saw that the issues in my marriage weren't going to get resolved. I've struggled with the idea of walking away from this relationship because I remember what it was like in the beginning, completely perfect in every way. I've held out hope that maybe things could return to the way they once were. Not only that, but despite the issues, we've built a very comfortable life together. Nice home, nice cars, financially comfortable, pets. I know what I've done makes me a terrible person. I should never have let the affair with my old flame get this far before ending my marriage. But in all honesty, I should probably feel worse about it than I actually do. All the times my husband has disregarded my feelings over the years has created a sort of numbness in how I'm feeling over this whole situation now. I've already been called a whore and a slut by randos on the internet, I get it. But I think it's rare that cheating situations are ever truly black and white. I'm not really sure of what I plan to do after the divorce is finalized. But I can already feel a huge weight lifting off my shoulders. I came home happily to share the news with my husband, but he seemed grumpy and jealous. I asked my husband how he was going to cope with me leaving him alone with 2 toddlers, and he said he would just be fine. Honestly, I think I've passed the stage where I feel any guilt. Whenever it seemed like I would feel some sort of pity for him, I remember how lazy and unmotivated he is to be a better husband. He didn't even try to win me back. He didn't even ask me where he messed up and how he can keep our family together. I'm so done with this man. I'm glad it's over.